Hello, welcome to this tutorial series, Trippy Textures in TouchDesigner. My name is Trip, and I want to show today a workflow to create trippy visuals in TouchDesigner. And yeah, before we start, I just want to say that the output is quite flashy, so if people with light sensitivity or epilepsy might get affected, so I just want to say that before we start. And the effect that we want to create today is this, and we're gonna use a line as a source, and we affect that line with some chop information, and then we will add some feedback to create the colorful effect. And yeah, so let's go through it. So yeah, let's build the basic setup. So what we're going to do is we start with a LinePOP, and we set the first point to -1 0, second point to 1 0, and then we connect the null to have an endpoint which we can connect to our geo. So this sets our geometry to pop geometry. And now to see everything, we need the classic render setup with light, camera, and a render top. And we then can add also a null to the render, so we get the endpoint, which we then can, with a blue display flag, show in the background. And yeah, we now want to use some chop channel data to basically create that line effect. And for that we use the pattern, and we see that the pattern has like 1,000 samples, and we want to reference the amount of points of the line to the pattern, so we have the right amount of samples in the channel data accordingly to the number of points of the line. And for that we click on here, length, and we reference the points. So, and the operator, line 1, and then num points. And in pops we need to add the brackets because it's a function. Normally in sops we would reference this, but with pops we reference the function, and now we have the same amount here. And to add more points to our line, we can add more divisions under the divisions tab. And now we also want to convert the point information from the pop into chop information, because at the end we're going to use chop to pop, and for that we need all 3 channels. So we can right click here and go to the pop tab and then click to chop to, and now we just connect, instead of the line, our chop to information. And pretty easily now we can combine these two by using the merge, and then we input our channel and connect the merge with a null. But we get an issue because here we had channel 1, but this pop doesn't know what channel 1 is. And what we actually want to do is we want to exchange P1 by this information. So first we can do rename that channel to P1 but what this does is the merge creates a fourth channel at the end, but we don't want. We want to exchange or overwrite P1 from here with this P1, and for that we go to duplicate names and click on replace first with last. And what this does is basically it replaces the channel with the same name from the first input with the channel from the second input with the same name. And now we can animate this curve with, for example, apps times seconds, and now we have an oscillating curve, oscillating sine wave. And to get a stronger effect and don't just have a line, what we want is we want to extrude this information. And for that, if we would just connect and extrude, we see that we get another warning, and if the middle click shows us only triangles and quads supported, so we need, when we look here, let's move it a bit around. When we look on the chop 2, we see the connectivity converts this data into line strip. We also can have, if you right click on the output and go to pop 2 and you click on extract primitives, you see we have a line strip primitive. And primitive is basically the type of what kind of pop shape, or what kind of how the points are basically connected in what shape. And there are different primitives in pops. We want, in this case, none, so we only get point information. And now we basically want, with this point information, create new primitives. So we right click on the wire, insert operator, and go to primitive. And this allows us now to go to the primitive tab and define by set, and we set it to triangles, or we could also do quads. And now we get the extrude. And if we increase the distance, we see, so we see this is creates kind of like creates a wacky extrude, but we exactly want that for the effect. And we can play with the distance, how far we want it, but for now this is everything that we have to do. And now we can go to the top part, and for that we first add a null to have this as the input for our feedback. So to create that feedback loop, we go to feedback, we plug that in, and we had this kind of like scrolling, scaling, scrolling out effect. So we're going to set in the transform some scale, but first we build the basic feedback effect, and then we adjust this further. So we have feedback, we have transform, we have a level to be able to control later how strong the feedback is. And then we close the feedback loop after the level with a composite, which lets us define how we want to combine the feedback texture with the new input texture. So right now we see it's on multiply, and what we want to do is actually wanted to XOR. And one necessary part for the feedback loop is that we reference the comp in the feedback, so we know the target top, and we see we already get quite some effect. And yeah, as I said before, we have this like scaling out, scrolling out effect. So we can set that. But now it looks really mushy, and the magic that actually happens, or that makes the effect, is if we go to invert and then set down the contrast, we kind of like can define how strong the effect is. So you see with different scale and what we also want is to add that rotation effect, but as you see we don't want it too much, so we add this noise, and to have it continuously changing and not always go at the same play the same values, we go to common time slice, and we right click and activate the viewer and reference it to the rotation. And now with changing the amplitude, we get that rotation. And now we can change the contrast a bit, make it a bit higher so we get stronger effect. And to get the color, because now we have just a black and white image, we can use a lookup, and this basically we set our black and white as a source image, and then we add a colorful noise as a lookup, and this assigns basically to the from black to white color values, these color values from the noise. And now with a different period, we get the effect, and we can also, so I set the period to 0.28, but we can also experiment with 0.5, and if you want a specific color combination, you could also manually left click on the translate of the Z of the noise, and then you just move back and forth till you find the color that you really want. Have fun. And yeah, with the contrast now you can basically set how strong the effect is. So you see we get, if the contrast is really low, we just get the line that we created, and if we are around 1, we get this smearing effect. And we can change the period a bit, and maybe change the amplitude as well. And Now we basically have the effect that we want. You also could play a little bit with the period of that noise top to find how many colors get assigned. That's quite nice. It is a period of 0.12, and yeah, playing with the level also allows you to affect how strong the effect is going to be, so you can further control the feedback. So basically, if the black level gets too high or like gets completely high, you don't have any real feedback outside of the lines. And yeah, I have black level of 0.5 now. Yeah, that's that for today. And that's the effect. And yeah, I hope you like it. I hope you get kind of like inspired to build your own stuff based on this. And yeah, thanks for watching, and hope you have a great day. Bye.